It's not every day that we come across stories where canines are the real heroes, but this tale is definitely one of those times. In today's story, we will see how a man who decided to stalk a young woman was given a piece of his own medicine by her pet dog. It all happened when a young lady named Laura Banks was returning home from work. She had been working late, so it was already dark by the time she left the office. However, the young woman didn't feel too worried. After all, she lived in a nice neighborhood and she wasn't alone. She had her 2 dogs with her. Laura had adopted these dogs a few years back. One was a Doberman Pinscher and the other was a German Shepherd. And even though they were both rescues, they were extremely well trained thanks to Laura's effort. In fact, Laura was so proud of her dogs that she regularly posted pictures and videos of them on her social media account. As Laura made her way home, she was lost in thought. She was thinking about what she would cook for dinner, and she was also thinking about the upcoming weekend. Suddenly, one of her dogs started barking. At first, Laura didn't think much of it. Her dogs often barked at nothing. Then she heard some footsteps behind her, and she turned around to see who was there. At that moment, Laura's blood ran cold. Standing behind her was a man who she knew all too well. It was Jeffrey Young, the very same man she had reported to the police several weeks before. Laura couldn't believe her eyes. She had thought that Jeffrey had moved out of town after she complained to the police, but now it seemed he was still lurking around. What made things worse was that Laura knew exactly what Jeffrey was up to. The man had been stalking her for months, and she had finally had enough. She tried to ignore him and continue on her way, but Jeffrey was persistent. He kept following her, and he even tried to engage her in conversation. Of course, Laura just kept on ignoring him. Suddenly, Jeffrey did something that made Laura's blood boil. He reached out and grabbed her arm. Laura screamed at the top of her lungs and tried to shake him off, but Jeffrey was a strong man, and he was able to hold on to her. Laura could feel her heart pounding in her chest. She was terrified. At that moment, she knew that she had to do something to get away from him. That was when she turned around and bit him as hard as she could. Jeffrey howled in pain and let go of her. As soon as he did, Laura ran away as fast as she could. All throughout her ordeal, her 2 dogs had been standing protectively in front of her. Now they barked furiously at the man who had hurt their owner. Laura didn't dare turn around to look at him. She was afraid that if she did, Jeffrey might come back and attack her again. Instead, she focused on putting as much distance between herself and her attacker as possible. She could hear her dogs barking loudly in the background, and she knew that they were doing everything they could to protect her. Finally, she reached her house. She fumbled with her keys for a moment before she was able to unlock the door. Then she ran inside and locked the door behind her. Laura was shaking uncontrollably. She leaned against the door for a moment to try and calm herself down. When she finally looked down, she realized that she was bleeding. Her arm was scratched and bruised, and she could see blood all over her clothes. But she didn't care about her injuries. All she could think about was her dogs. She ran to the window and looked out, but she couldn't see either of them anywhere. Just then, she heard the sound of sirens in the distance. Laura's heart skipped a beat. She knew that the police were coming, but she also knew that her dogs were still outside. She ran to the front door and flung it open. "Come on, boys," she called out. "Let's go." She knew that her dogs wouldn't listen to her, but she had to try. She led them outside and then ran to the sidewalk. There she saw the police and told them what had happened. The officers immediately got into their cars and sped away. Laura knew that they were going to look for her attacker, but she also knew that he was probably gone by now. She looked down at her dogs, who were still barking furiously. "It's okay, boys," she said. "He's gone." But her dogs didn't seem convinced. They kept on barking and growling. And then suddenly, one of them started whimpering. Laura knelt down and petted her dog. "What's wrong, girl?" she asked. But the dog just kept on whining. At that moment, Laura noticed that her dog was holding something in her mouth. She cautiously reached out and took it from the dog. It was a shoe. Then it hit Laura what had happened. Her dog must have bitten Jeffrey with that shoe. But that wasn't all. As she looked closer, she realized that the shoe was covered in blood. Laura felt a surge of adrenaline. Had her dog managed to get away from Jeffrey? Was he injured? Before she knew it, Laura was running down the street, calling out for her dog. She could hear the police sirens in the distance, and she hoped that they would be able to help her. As she rounded a corner, she saw her dog lying on the ground. He was whimpering softly, and there was blood all over his mouth. Laura rushed to his side and knelt down beside him. "Oh my God," she cried. "You're hurt." She could see that her dog had a broken spine. He had probably jumped onto Jeffrey in an effort to save her. But now he was in serious trouble. Laura quickly called for 911 and then cradled her dog as he was being loaded into the ambulance. She knew that he needed her, and she wanted to tell him how brave he had been, but she could tell that he wasn't going to make it. Despite Laura's best efforts, the dog was pronounced dead at the hospital. She was devastated, but she knew that he had died a hero. He had saved her life by attacking her attacker. When the news of the incident spread, people were divided. Some praised the dog for its bravery, while others said that it had only done what it had been trained to do. However, Laura knew that her dog had gone above and beyond the call of duty. He had risked his life to save hers, and she would never forget that. In the end, justice was served. The man who had stalked Laura was arrested and charged with attempted murder. He was also banned from owning a dog for life. As for Laura, she was left with a broken arm and a broken heart, but she knew that she would never be able to repay her heroic dogs for what they had done for her. This story is a reminder that even though dogs may not always be around, they are always ready to help us in our time of need. Canines are known for their loyalty and bravery, and this story is a perfect example of that. We hope that you enjoyed this story as much as we did, and don't forget to share it with your friends and family. Thanks for watching.